All right, thanks for being here. Joining me in studio, Chief Jeri Williams. I got to tell you, I was very surprised by the announcement that you were retiring from law enforcement. Every time I've seen you, even in the worst of circumstances, you never gave me the impression that it was time to walk away. What went into this decision?
So a lot of prayer, a lot of thoughtful consideration. When your spouse says to you, why don't we just travel when we have the energy and the time to do so? Those are the kind of things that ring true, especially when you've been married to the guy for 32 years. You may want to listen to him sometime.
Wow, so you've been a cop the same amount of time you've been married?
Pretty much, so a little bit longer. So I'm on my 33rd year and 32nd year being married.
Wow. So
I know, a long time.
Let's walk back a little bit. Jim Sharp this morning was asking me if I had seen the picture of you
in that helmet?
In the helmet.
Ay.
But looking back at your career here with Phoenix Police Department, just give me a couple of highlights.
Highlights being hired, highlights being a brand new patrol officer in the place where I went to high school out in West Phoenix, highlights becoming an assistant chief, highlight being chief of police in Oxnard, highlight coming back home. So many highlights, so many highs, far more highs than there were lows. But even at the lowest times, knowing that I had the Phoenix Police Department family, the city of Phoenix community, and my family always made things so much more bearable.
When you look at where the Phoenix Police Department is now, with the rates of attacks on officers going up the way it has in the last couple of years, did that play any role in any of this with you?
I think, Mike, a lot of things played a role. Tenure plays a role. The time you've been in law enforcement plays a role. I'll be honest. During Denise Brown Jones's critical incident, I literally had to take a moment away from my team and kind of collect myself. So those are those moments that you kind of say, okay, maybe this job is weighing on me. Maybe my emotional love and investment for my employees and for this community, is it too much to bear? Those are those kind of times that you take a second step back. I can't let you see that when I'm talking in the media, because you still want to see a police chief who's holding up our police department.
Now, there has been some controversy. You've got an investigation going on in the agency, and there's been some demotions in the command staff. How much of a role did any of that play in this?
So all those things, while they may be challenging, are just part of the job. I'll be honest with you, I'm not running away from anything. I'm running to my family. I'm running to whatever opportunities. I'm running to a place where someone who looks like me, who 33 years ago would have never thought she would have been in the place where we're recognized in the state, we're recognized in the country, where we're recognized internationally for being a great police department.
When you look at where the Phoenix Police Department is right now, is short-staffed and things of that nature, what needs to happen? What message do people need to hear about policing in Phoenix and the need for more officers?
Awesome. So please apply. We're looking for individuals both to be the sworn officers as well as part of our civilian members. We're still an amazing police department. And in spite of our challenges, we still respond to calls for service. We still take care of things. We talked a little bit about Top Cop. So we have some awardees coming up where folks who are just normal human beings in the job wearing this uniform do extraordinary things. So we're looking for people. We're supported by our community. Mayor and council support us too. So please apply. We need you.
All right, so two things. You brought up one of them, Top Cops. Those officers in this video that was released, I shared it on Instagram when it was so people could see it, of these two officers in an incident with a guy that had a child and a gun.
Yes.
And they had to make a decision and take the suspect out.
Yes.
But the end of the video shows one of those cops
coddling the baby
on the curb.
Yes. So that's the heart and passion and epitome of the Phoenix Police Department. We can come in, we can problem solve, but at the end of the day, we show compassion, we show empathy, and just that video of that officer saying, "Okay, it's going to be okay, it's going to be okay." That's our heart and soul of Phoenix PD.
And to have one of those, when the two cops were being interviewed, one of them said, we were just ordinary people put in an extraordinary circumstance.
Absolutely.
I thought that was one of the most, one of the best statements in such a nutshell.
It is.
That I've heard.
So officers and employees who work for the Phoenix Police Department, I don't think our folks want accolades. They just want to do a great job. They just want to do what's right by people. And when that situation presented itself, our job is to go in and problem solve and make the situation better. And in spite of how different people look at the scenario, to take the action that they took and then to take care of that baby speaks volumes to the thread in the fabric of Phoenix PD.
The other thing I wanted to talk to you about was I learned something new or deeper about the Phoenix Police Department, and that was being at the dinner with the reserve officers.
Oh, yes.
Learning about the hours that are volunteered every year by people. The officer that was the youngest, I think his first year in, over 1,300 hours. He had donated. He's a school teacher.
Exactly.
There's another reserve officer that got the Chief's Award, and he runs a biotech company. And they're talking thousands and thousands of hours. Detective and solves cases.
All that.
Pretty amazing group of volunteers.
So I have nothing bad to say about our reserve division. I shared with you earlier during the protests of 20, we came to a critical juncture where I didn't have people. We did not have enough people to respond to what was going on. And all we did is we made one phone call to the reserve division. And in less than 12 hours, I had 200 plus reserves sitting in a seat saying, "Boss, what do you need me to do?" That's Phoenix PD.
It's so funny because I'm standing here talking to you about this and we're talking about your retirement. And when I hear you talk like this, it doesn't sound to me like you're ready to retire. How bad are you going to miss this?
Well, I will miss the people in ways that I can't even articulate. When I say that Phoenix PD is my family, I mean that, Mike. I mean that with every ounce and fabric of my being. But I do have a family. And we're a family of public servants. I got a husband who's a judge, former council person. I got a son who's a firefighter. I got a son who plays pro ball. We're still going to be involved in this community. So I'm not leaving Phoenix. I'm just leaving this position for the moment to look and see what's available for me in the future and to spend time with my family.
So before we talk about the future, one more question about the past. Okay. Some people, you're known as a mentor. You just mentioned the fact that someone that looks like you now is going to have opportunities.
Yes.
Who are some of the mentors? Who are some of the people you look back in law enforcement, some of the people that you worked with or that kind of mentored you?
Right. So I had mentors that took all shapes, forms, and fashions. Mike Frazier used to be an assistant chief. Kevin Robinson used to be an assistant chief. Jack Harris rolled the dice on me, man, and made me an assistant chief over the South Zone Patrol. Seal Woodward, I can think of, Ed Zerker, Milton Dehoney. I can give you a laundry list of people, but these are people, Mike, who saw potential. And at times, there were times that I didn't see the leadership potential that they saw. So I think we all have a responsibility, and I think you do too, because you're on media and you're on air, to mentor people to make sure that the world is richer, that the world is better because of us.
How much did your time in Oxnard prepare you to lead this organization?
Great question. I don't think I would have been the Phoenix Police Chief had I not had that experience. Me being the chief of an agency speaks volumes to your ability to come and be a police chief in the fifth largest city in the nation. There were no obstacles or no issues that I tackled in Oxnard that we didn't have or face here in Phoenix. And I will be forever grateful to Oxnard. Karen Burnham, who was my mentor and city manager there, God rest her soul, she was amazing.
What is the city looking for? I would love to know who you think they're looking for, but what are they looking for in an interim chief? So
the city manager said it when he made his comments post me letting city management know that it's time for me to leave, is that they're looking for someone with experience, practical experience in leading an agency through the DOJ process. I've said it, and we've come out on air, or it went out in the media or something, where we were looking for an assistant chief that had that experience, because neither I nor anyone else in my agency has that experience. And in order for us to move forward as a city, as a department, and as an agency, we're going to need to have that.
So let me step back for a moment then. I know that you've got a great working relationship with the sheriff, with Sheriff Penzone.
Yes.
He is dealing with this situation in his agency. Have you talked with him at all about his situation, or at least how you work with the DOJ?
Oh, absolutely. So I've had a lot of conversations with Sheriff Penzone, and I did want to give a shout out to both Paul and Veronica. We actually ran into them at Mother's Day brunch. So happy Mother's Day, post Mother's Day to all those out there. And I did want to clear up one thing, Mike. I mispronounced Denise's middle name. So Denise Bruce Jones was officer who was involved in the critical incident.
When you so the interim chief, they're looking for someone with DOJ experience. Yes. Do you believe, are they going to look to keep that chief on board, or are they going to continue the search? How long would that search take for a permanent chief?
So in the conversations I've had with city management, me telling them that I'm going to retire was definitely something that they didn't anticipate. So at the end of the day, we do want to find someone to lead us through that interim time frame, and then find someone as a permanent police chief who has DOJ experience.
Is there a date you've already chosen to leave, or is it still fluid until they have somebody in mind or somebody in place?
It is still fluid. I am a consummate professional in spite of what some people may say. And for me to tell the city that the highest ranking department head is going to leave and just leave them hanging, for lack of a better term, is inappropriate and unprofessional. So when they identify, then that will be the catalyst for me to let you know when the last date will be.
You just made me think of another question. The politics of policing. I hate it. I try to support law enforcement in every way I can, but
Right.
in any organization this big, there's going to be the politics of policing.
Absolutely.
When was it in your career where you started to realize you have to be able to navigate the politics of policing?
Great question. So it was probably when I got picked to be the city manager liaison. Phoenix PD has always had a commander as a liaison between city management and the police department because we operate 24/7, 365. There's always things going on. And in that position, you learn the delicate balance of providing information, but trying to stay as apolitical as possible.
It's interesting because Sheriff Penzone on this show, I had him on to talk
Yes.
about you when you made the announcement.
Yes.
And one of the things he said was, everybody thinks they know what it's like to be the boss until they're the boss.
Until you're sitting in that number one chair.
So give us a little insight. What's it like to be the boss?
So let's talk positives. You get to affect change. You get to impact people positively. I get to see the good stuff that the men and women who work in this agency do. On the flip side, it's really making decisions that are in the best interest of the city, the department, and not making it personal. Is it challenging? Is it stressful? Yes, yes, and yes. Have I been blessed to have an amazing support system? Yes, yes, and yes. And my faith has definitely kept me sane as I can be.
Is it difficult to take the arrows, especially arrows from people you don't expect to get arrows from?
Those are those moments that you kind of sit back and you pause and you say in your brain, why am I doing this job? I'm not doing this job because I'm Jeri Williams, I want to be amazing, and all that other stuff. I'm doing this job because I believe I was called to serve, and that call to service won't end because I'm leaving this position. It just means that it's going to take different shape.
Yeah, the reason why I asked that question is I was reading a bunch of stories today just to catch up on stuff, and
Okay.
There was a piece in the Republic that was not flattering. And my first thought was, man, who did you make angry at the Republic?
Right.
You know?
So in this job, you don't become the police chief of the fifth largest city to make friends everywhere. I know at the end of the day, I can sleep easy, I can rest easy at night, I can look myself in the mirror because I know that I've made decisions in the best interest of this organization, the profession, and the city in general. If you didn't like my decisions, everyone's entitled to their opinion. I'm still going to stay positive and I'm still going to stay focused.
What about things you've done you wish you'd done differently? Any of those? Anything you can think of that if you look back and say that was a mistake or I would have done that differently?
So a couple things come to mind, and this happened prior to me being the chief. It was before I went to Oxnard. There was a critical incident with one of our councilmen in South Phoenix where I didn't remember to go speak with the communications dispatchers, and to this day I still regret that lack of connection with those dispatchers. And I'll be honest, it's going to sound like so minimus, but I still wish I would have taken that Spanish class in college that I didn't take because I would love to be able to communicate in Spanish with individuals in our community.
When you look forward now, first of all, do you have any input? Are they asking you about people that would replace you permanently, or are they asking you for advice in that regard, or are you staying completely out of that process?
So they are going to use me as one of the components in the interview panels to try to find the individuals. Of course, I'm making some suggestions. At the end of the day, it isn't my decision, but I know city management knows this. At the end of the day, I want nothing but what is good for the Phoenix Police Department and for our community.
So give me some characteristics of the person that Phoenix PD needs to hire. Not the person you have in mind, but the characteristics of the person that needs to take this job.
Someone who loves and cares and has a passion for the men and women who serve this department, who serve this community, who work with city management. Someone who can communicate. Someone who is willing to stand alone in times of making challenging decisions, but do so in the best interest of the department. Someone who's willing to really take the arrows and take the hits and take all the things that are coming your way, while at the same time trying to shield your department from those type of things so that they still feel valued and that they want to come in and go to work. And someone who's willing to work really hard. This is not an easy job. It's not a coasting job. It's not a retirement job. This is a job where you really have to be all in 24/7, 365. And if you're not the right person for this job.
You were an outsider going into Oxnard and taking over that agency,
Yes.
and you were an insider taking over the Phoenix Police Department. So you've been a chief in both situations.
Yes.
Which was the best for you and the best for that city?
I think both were the best. Now that I think about it, I think Oxnard needed that outside person who came in from a big city with a fresh set of eyes to make great changes and great community relationships. But I also think I was the best person when Phoenix picked me because I was an inside outsider. And I didn't have a honeymoon phase, Mike. So when I came in, the budget was tanked, staffing was tanked, and things were happening. And then you fast forward through 5 years, I think we've withstood a lot of things that most people would have crumbled. And if you think about police chiefs' tenures, especially in major cities, they last somewhere between 3 and 5 years. I'm coming up on my 6th year.
Last question.
Okay.
Legacy. What do you want to be remembered for?
Community connections with employees, technology, being forward focused, being a performer, being a change agent, being someone who's approachable, being something different than what you think a police chief is supposed to be because of personality, because of persona, and someone who has tremendous faith in her department and her agency and wouldn't have it any other way.
Well, I got to tell you, I hope this isn't the last time you're here.
I hope not.
But I want to thank you for always being so willing to talk to the audience about the really difficult things that were going on and being so candid with people. And I appreciate the time as well.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody. Love you, KTR.